Ferrari in trouble in Monza GP. If there is one team that we expected would perform better than they are, that is Ferrari. They started the season in a very commanding way, showing that they are back from the dead. However, that wasn't the case after the third race in Australia, as we've seen a vastly declining form and them taking just 2 wins in Austria and in Silverstone. What is more concerning for them is that they lost the advantage they had over Mercedes in the last 3 races, and although they are looking to bounce back on their home soil, that would be much easier said than done. Want to find out why Ferrari would struggle a lot in their home GP? Stick around with us until the end of this video. One thing that is worth noting when it comes to Ferrari weekend performance is that they are losing pace all of a sudden on Sunday. At least that was the case in the last 3 races, where they managed to qualify in the front row in Hungary and Zandvoort, but when it matters the most on Sunday, they just seem to lack the pace, and the F175 isn't performing as they should. This is truly a huge problem because the points are scored on Sunday, not on Saturday, unless it's a sprint race. These problems have been addressed by Carlos Sainz Jr. and Binotto, who were yet again in the spotlight after the blunder with the missing tyre in the pit stop. When Sainz pitted for fresh new tyres, it seems like his team has left out the rear left tyre in the garage, which is why Sainz's pit stop turned into a nightmare of 13 seconds. When he exited the pit stop, he said, "Oh my God," in the most depressing way he could, saying that even he had enough of the Ferrari blunders. On top of that, the gun that is used to unbolt the tyres was run over by Perez, and frankly, it wasn't the Mexican's fault, since it was left too far away from the mechanic. And considering the fact that Zandvoort has one of the narrowest pit stops, it ended up the way it did. Binotto talked about the pace of the Ferrari during the Dutch GP after the race, saying that there is something they need to work on in order to find the right setup for the Sunday race event. If you look at the quali pace of yesterday, we were hoping for a better result today, but the speed and the performance today was not great for all the race long, especially on the medium and the hards, which is something that has somehow affected our result. A bit unlucky maybe with Charles at the pit stop under the safety car because he just pitted, but I don't think that would have been enough, so simply not as good in terms of now. It's 3 races in a row where Ferrari have lost out, from Hungary, from Spa, here, so I think we are not exploiting maybe the full potential of the car. There is something wrong that we need to address. In Hungary we were not quick enough, and maybe we need to simply review our packages that we introduced, or maybe in the way that we are balancing our car today. I think that the potential of the car can be high. It has proved to be higher since the beginning of the season, but right now it is not the case anymore, said Binotto, who then talked about the bizarre pit stop that occurred to Sainz and that dropped the Spaniard down the grid. I think if I look at today, simply the call was too late a call, so we had no time to react. All these things need to be fixed, but these ones are the easiest to be fixed. So at the end, they happened. They should not happen. I'm pretty sure we can be stronger in the future, so I'm less concerned by that than the pace of the car, said Binotto. Sainz was also asked about the unsafe release that saw him receiving the 5-second penalty, and this time we truly believe that it was the FIA to blame for the penalty, as it was far from an unsafe release. As we mentioned earlier in this video, the Zandvoort pits are one of the narrowest ones on the calendar, and Sainz tried to avoid contact with the McLaren mechanic and practically save his life. This was discussed in the cool-down room, and even Verstappen said that it wasn't a fair penalty. But what's even more concerning is that Sainz spoke about Ferrari's pace, saying that the car felt tricky and difficult to drive, and they suffered yet again from tyre degradation. That wasn't an unsafe release. I was launched into the pit lane correctly, but the problem is that I had to brake to not take a McLaren guy out of his life. Because I took avoiding action, they give you a penalty. I find this very frustrating, and I'm going to speak with the FIA now because I don't understand it, said Sainz, who also spoke about where Ferrari lacks the most pace, and how does he feel about the blunder with the missing tyre. Yes, it was a mess, the whole race in trouble, first with the confusing pit stop that we had, and the yellow flag in which I saved myself by very small margins, and then the unsafe release. It's race pace. No, where we're missing, I'm not happy with how the car felt in the race. It was super tricky to drive. We were always fighting the rear a lot of overheating, and we need to find out why the car isn't as strong as it is in quali, said Sainz. He was supported by Binotto, who also said that the penalty makes no sense because all Sainz did was be careful to not hurt the mechanic of McLaren. On the second one with the unsafe release and the penalties, which cost quite a lot to Carlos, I feel the decision of the FIA and the stewards is very harsh. The reason is, when he came in, McLaren was passing through and we handled Carlos in the pit position, because we knew it would have been unsafe to release him at the time. We waited and waited until we had the right space with the Alpine coming, and that is why we released him. After that, he had to slow down and almost had to stop because the pit crew of McLaren was going around the Norris car, and in order to be safe with the mechanics, he almost stopped with anti-stall cutting in. The release itself was not unsafe. It was safe. The way that Carlos acted was safe, so that is why I think the overall decision was harsh, finished Binotto. So the Italian GP will be a huge challenge for the Italian team. One thing is that they are going to a track that is supposed to favour them due to the lower downforce nature of it. However, Sector 2 in Spa was a low downforce one, and we've seen Verstappen being plus 0.4 seconds quicker than Sainz and Leclerc in it, and here in Italy there is a long main straight that is used to gain time. Main straights are Red Bull's primary force this season, and they are using it to absolutely bash their competition, being faster 20 to 30 kilometers per hour than Ferrari and Mercedes. It's all to play for in Italy, but as things stand, it seems like Ferrari will suffer yet again in front of their own public. It's very likely that they will be dominant yet again in the qualifying, but then on race day things will go wrong for them badly. Another thing that's adding to this is Sainz's post-race statement after the Belgian GP, where he said that he expects Red Bull to have the upper hand in Italy, but Ferrari should be better in Zandvoort. The latter didn't turn out to be true, and it seems like the former will turn out to be bad for them either. Binotto is more than excited to get back to his home soil, and although the P1 fight is kind of a done deal given the fact how Verstappen and Red Bull performs, they now have to fight for the P2 spot too, since Russell is marching towards that place in the Drivers' Championship, and Mercedes is just 30 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. Now we go to Monza, where we can expect a warm welcome from our Tifosi. We know we can always count on their support, and it will be great to finally see the grandstands at the Autodromo packed out after the limitation on spectator numbers last year because of COVID. We will do our utmost to make our supporters proud of us, even if we already know it won't be an easy race, given the performance level of our competitors, finished Binotto. What do you think will happen next for Ferrari in Monza? Let us know in the comments below.